So this topic was brought on by years of teaching, and this question actually being arisen by students. How do you create this music that's constantly wandering harmonically and make it sound fluid? I've actually learned that you cannot teach this, but you could only point to where to look, and I've found the four biggest problems when it comes to writing and continuously harmonically wandering music, like Wagner to some of John Williams' stuff does this too, if you're into film composing. One of the biggest problems is they never quite master the learning how to create very fluid melodies and music that makes sense in key first, maybe with a little bit of chromaticism. Oftentimes I've noticed melodies look more like guitar solos than they do melodies, and melodies are actually most of the time very simple. So here, if we cannot create some simple thing that makes musical sense, with these, then we're not going to, don't bother going to number 4. Really simple melodies. This is something you need to work on. In addition, you need to be able to bring something like this to a close. So let's do that. Let's just make it up. Let's do something like this. This is what you need to learn how to do before you go to number 3 and number 4. There's no way around that. So I'm going to take a modulation I already have in a piece of music. I'll just play through it real quick. Modulates to E flat from B flat in a chromatic way. Okay, so I'm going to use that little motif there. This is where continuous thematic use will come in. This is step 3, okay, which is related to step 1 and 2. So I'll extend that little modulation a bit, improvise on it. So stopping here for a second, I'm just continuously reusing this thematic little material. That's what's holding it together, and knowing where I can go. So let's extend it farther. Extending. Bringing it to a close. This all relates to number 1. Creating music with a sense of timing and fluidness and melody. And this all relates to number 1, learning how to create simple music that makes sense with simple melodies, with fluidness, sense of timing, all that stuff. So again, I took this modulation here that I have in a different piece, and I extended it by using this little motif over and over again. The motif was very simple. The continuous harmonic wandering was not, but I knew where I can go, and this all goes back to number 1. So literally, master simple song forms first. That's number 1. Keep melodies simple, because this will help you develop a good sense of timing and fluidness. That's why you do simple music first. It might seem boring and tedious, but that's what you need to do. If your simple music technique is not very good, work on it. So the premise here is that if you cannot create music that makes sense within key, and maybe with a few chromatic harmonies like secondary dominance and whatnot, that sounds very fluid and makes very, very good sense musically. Forget about going into continuous chromatic wandering until you master that aspect, because it requires you to master developing motifs and also timing aspects to make everything in that entire thing make sense from start to finish. That's why I say Twinkle Twinkle Little Star is a masterpiece. Now, when you start dealing with constant modulation, constant wandering, what's going to hold it together is a very good sense of timing and thematic reuse. And themes in general, sense of timing, themes, what you learned with the simple music creation.